Hey folks, Joko here with another online review of a random person's Task 2 essay that they had posted on Facebook. And actually this person indicated that they needed a score of 8 in writing. Wow, that's a tall order. Many people struggle for years to get to a 7. Stuck at a 6.5 has become a standard expression. So what you're asking for is quite a lot. And I'll just say right up front, this is nowhere near an 8. You're nowhere near a 7. Well, maybe near a 7. But you got some stuff you got to clear up. This is anyway. Let's get to it. Now, first thing, of course, is to analyze the question. And what kind of question is it? It's an opinion question. It's to what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Well, what statement are they talking about? They make it pretty straightforward. It appears that way. In the future, nobody will buy printed newspapers or books because they will be able to read everything they want online without paying. Now, what part of this statement are we being asked to agree or disagree with? The first part, nobody will buy printed newspapers, or the second part, because they will be able to read everything they want online without paying? Will they? And will that keep them from buying books? With this question, you have your choice of what you can disagree with, because nothing is really stated so clearly as a premise. I guess, nobody will buy printed newspapers or books. All right, that's the one that I think you're being asked primarily to agree or disagree with. The reason for which, well, there have to be a good reason, because people have been buying printed books for nearly 800 years. It's going to take a lot to change that. All right. Now, in the introduction, this gentleman decides to paraphrase the statement as it's written and just go straight into it. There's no introduction of the topic. I am not in favor of statements like whether or not people will buy. Well, actually, in this case, it almost fits. Buying things on the internet, or reading books on the internet has become increasingly popular. That would actually fit at the rare occasion that it does. But, some kind of lead-in to the statement. No, not at all. There will be no people. This is not you're replacing nobody with no people. No people. We don't say no people because we have two words that mean no people already that are quite good. One of them is nobody, and the other one is no one. So you might want to say no one. Oh, wait. There will be no people who will. Unnecessary. All right. There will be who will purchase instead of buy printed books or newspapers. Printed newspapers or books. Not good enough. In the long run, as they will be able to read everything they will be able to read everything that's 9 words that are just taken straight out of the question. Need, not want, on the internet, online, at a free cost. This is not a good collocation at all. We don't say at a free cost. We say for free. Now I'm using yellow for Lexis, and all of this is grammar related. Blue I use for coherence and cohesion, namely connectors and that sort of thing. You're using the connector in my opinion to say, in my opinion, I completely agree. Well, those two words, that opening, or that connector, that phrase, does not go with I completely agree with this statement. Of course, you should know. Somebody else is going to say that you don't agree with it. You're going to say, I completely agree with this statement, or, in my opinion, this statement is true. That's fine. Now, but you can't say, in my opinion, I completely agree. All right. Firstly, as everything. Everything what? Will be online according to readers. Huh? Now, blue, as I said, is coherence and cohesion. But it's more than just connectors. It's also about readability and combinations of words that slow the reader down because not quite clear what they're talking about. And that's what this does. They, who are they? They who? Will no longer find it necessary to pay for printed books or newspapers. It's read for task response. This is not a topic sentence. This is what you should have written in the first paragraph instead of copying the question. This is just stating the premise. Again, it does nothing to advance the discussion. This, comma, in turn, comma, will save their money. Whose money? As people do not have to go to bookshops or stores. Bookshops or bookstores. You know, we covered both of them there. They're blue because it's unnecessary. It slows the reader down. To buy newspapers. Well, what about books? You don't have to go to the bookshop to buy newspapers. Everywhere you turn, there's, well, I mean, used to be more so than nowadays, but you can have a newspaper delivered to your house every morning. Have been, at least, scores of children selling newspapers on street corners and everywhere you go, and machines that deliver newspapers, bookshops or stores. Currently in USA. That should be grammar, actually, because you're missing an article. USA it's in the USA. I should know, I'm from there. The demand for online books is higher than printed books or newspapers. Okay, now at this point, I've highlighted books and newspapers because I want to show you something. We're going to go someplace else to a little website called Wordcounter.net. Here. Okay, so here's your essay. 296 words. Look over here on the right, and you got some interesting information like the longest sentence you wrote was 45 words. That's really long. 9 for the shortest. That's okay. 22. Oh, actually, that's fine. That's okay. But look at your word usage. Printed books or newspapers. Printed books or newspapers. Printed books or newspapers. Printed books or newspapers. 7 times you used those words in a row. Online. Well, no. Let's just look at, say, printed books. Printed books, 10 times. Books and newspapers, 10 times. You need to use referencing, okay? Them or they or it, though. Some pronouns for some of these, but that's way too much. Way too much. Where was I? Oh yeah, back to here. Okay. All right, the demand is higher, but there is still demand. Demand hasn't disappeared. Why is there still demand if the other way is so superior? Oh, and other countries are trying to introduce this digital technology. Well, what digital technology? Are you saying that other countries don't have access to the internet? All right. As it becomes too expensive for the people, it becomes, no, we want has become, is becoming, one of those two, for the people. What people? To spend money on newspaper or printed books regularly. We're not talking about regularly, even if they bought them occasionally. That's a lot different than there will be nobody, no one, no person, no people. Okay, another reason for people to prefer. Okay, now we have it doesn't matter what your opinion is, if it's right or wrong, or even your supporting points are fine. All right, as long as it's relevant and print quality is generally one of the things that is cited as a reason why these things I jokingly call them highly portable, low-powered, high-resolution media delivery systems. aka books, they will still they have a higher resolution than looking at a screen. And then missing pages, I think I can count that one time in my life. I remember I had a book that had some missing pages in it, and that's because it was a secondhand book. Now we get to secondhand books. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. These books are more available than first-hand printed books. What does that have to do with anything? These books do not have high print quality. What does that have to do with the future? Inconspicuous is definitely not the word you're looking for. People of the Indian subcontinent. Okay, and then for your conclusion, you just restate the question. People rely more on websites to read books or newspapers without money. That's just stating the premise again. You should summarize your arguments. But both arguments are hard to support because they're rather dubious. So, I disagree with your essay, but that shouldn't affect my scoring of it. Grammar is a very high point. They said they've only got like 3 or 4 grammar mistakes in the whole thing, and that's really quite good. Could score up to a 9 there. But lexical, no. 8, no. Some of the lexical mistakes, like inconspicuous. Why it can be witnessed? Why witnessed in there? Well, yeah, 7 if you're lucky. Task response. What about books and newspapers? Well, you certainly said them enough times, but what about the difference between them? Don't you think, are they just going to suffer the same fate? Are books and newspapers so similar? No. You haven't really addressed all parts of the question because you didn't address books and newspapers as separate things, and they most certainly are. That brings us to coherence and cohesion, which with all these extra words is not going to score very well, and these odd connectors. So 8, 7 maybe. Good luck.